Hi, I'm Mary Poplin with Boris FX and Imagineer Systems. In this video tutorial, I'll be creating a motion graphics animation that is inspired by the very cool opening for the Netflix superhero show Jessica Jones. While I am not recreating the look exactly, I was inspired to create an animated painterly look for the fictional show Comic Noir with Boris Continuum Complete plugins and the Adobe After Effects suite. Now, we are not using the exact same technique as they used for Jessica Jones, which is a series of complex compositing using various planes and set rebuilds, fractal noise, etc. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be using the BCC tools to create a similar look while also using Photoshop and Rebel to generate some paint strokes. So let's get started, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create our plates inside of Photoshop. Inside of Photoshop, you can see that I've added an intro plate, which is this green and purple and blue plate. I've also made a subway plate, and I've made an interior subway plate. And all of these are made in Photoshop by just taking watercolors and overlaying them over the top of photographs. It's a really simple process. Next, I move on to Rebel, which is an online program or a purchasable program. I'm using the online version, and I'm going to generate some brush strokes and record them so that I can lay them over the top of my composition to create that wet paint look. Once this is done, I head right over to After Effects. Inside of After Effects, you can see that this is a mini layered process, and we're going to walk you through this whole process. But essentially what I'm doing is adding a retimer by using posterized time. I'm using the BCC 2-strip color corrector and Puffy light rays, fractal noise, specifically the Grunge filter, to create a multi-layered look inside of After Effects using the BCC 10 tools. The key here is to create the look of a painterly amount of layers without actually having to create the amount of layers that the original title sequence had in it. What we're shooting for here is a rotoscoping free solution, and you can see that the before and after looks really, really nice. So let's get started and show you exactly how to do this really neat looking, very painterly effect. We're going to show you on one shot, and then I'm going to show you everything composited together. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find this shot. That's going to be shot 2. And this footage is courtesy of Artbeats, but what we're going to do is we're going to select our footage and we're going to go New Comp from Selection. And we're going to rename this comp to Step by Step. So I have my footage, and let's rename this to Original, and let's duplicate it. I always like to have my original so I can compare back. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come over to Effects and Presets, and we're going to find Posterize Time, BCC Posterize Time. We're going to drag and drop this right on top of our original, and we're going to jump our frame separation up to 4, every 4 frames. BCC Posterized Time is used to add strobe effects by altering the frame rate of the source media and adjusting the length of each frame. We are achieving an animated look by doing this because animation is 24 frames per second, right? But it's reduced to 12 frames of individual animation per second that are just doubled up. So we're trying to duplicate that look. And you can see that makes everything pretty choppy. What I also want to do is I want to move this backwards to where she's just coming on frame. Now that I have my posterized time, I'm going to come over here and we're going to do 2-strip color corrector. BCC 2-strip color corrector. We're going to drag and drop it right on top of our original. 2-strip color corrector is actually made to mimic the highly saturated colors of Technicolor films, but we're going to use it to simulate the high color look of the Jessica Jones titles. Inside of our effects browser, I'm going to pick blue and purple. I'm going to hit apply. And now I want to punch the brightness and contrast. I'm going to come over here to BCC brightness and contrast, and I'm going to punch these tones. And the reason I'm punching them is because I really want those blacks to read, and I want my whites to be white. Now, we're going to come over here and we're going to add BCC Watercolor to split all our values up. BCC Watercolor is found in the Art Looks section and is a quick way to get a painterly look on this footage. Every BCC filter has useful presets found in the effects browser to help me browse and quickly pick a paint look without having to play with any settings. Inside of our effects browser, we're going to pick Soft Cartoon No Line and apply that. And that breaks all of this up into shapes. Now we're going to come over here and we're going to go to BCC blur. We're going to grab our directional blur, drag that right on top of our footage. We're going to increase the blur amount to 20. Directional blur is pretty self-explanatory, but we're using it here to simulate the brushstroke look. And now we're going to grab BCC Grunge. We're going to take BCC Grunge, drag it right on top. Grunge is a plugin designed to make a unique grungy art look. Grunge accesses an image library and allows the user to apply multiple properties such as displace, erode, shake, and transform to quickly create cool looks inside of one effect. What we're actually doing is creating a really unique effect that combines 5 to 10 layer comps that you would normally have to make into one simple effect. Now this is actually a custom grunge pattern that I've made from an image I found online that was like a stock footage that you can just buy. And I saved this into my texture folder. We're going to call this Gray Brushstrokes. We're going to apply this as an overlay, and in transformation we're going to take the opacity down. From here I can actually animate our texture, because if you'll notice in the titles that we're trying to pattern this look after, the textures animate. So we're going to come to our first frame. To transformation, position X and Y. We're going to hit the animation button here. And further down, we're just going to offset this. So now our brush strokes move over the top. Just like that. Alright, we're going to come over here and grab BCC Raise Puffy, and we're going to drop it right on top of our plate. BCC Light Rays is found in the Lights section. Continuum plugins have lots of excellent fast and interactive lighting effects which are useful in designing cool looks. Again, notice how fast this is even though I have so many filters stacked up. Puffy Light Rays adds soft beams of light spreading from a single source point. You might think of them as caustics or God rays. We're going to come to the Effects browser. We're going to pick, let's do Intense Original Colors. Alright, let's do Intense Original Colors, and let's pick a new gradient. Using the eyedropper tool, we're going to select various colors from the plate in order to fill out this gradient. Alright, so now we have a much more purple set of light rays. So now that's one layer of color and texture over the top of everything, and we can work on our second layer and start bringing the details back out. So, let's take this and duplicate it, and we're going to blow away everything except our posterized time and our two-strip color corrector. Inside of our color corrector, I'm going to pull some of these greens, hit apply, and we're going to soft light this over the top. And that will give us a lot of our detail back, but what you'll see is that we're introducing some new colors so that everything blends interestingly, because that's the key to good paintings, right? Overlaying colors. And we're going to take our opacity down to about an 80 so that we still retain some of the softness. So we're going to call this Detail. We're going to call this Painter, Painterly. And now we need to add in the lines that are offset noise. So we're going to hit Duplicate on this again, and we're going to call this Lines. And we're going to find our saturation. And we're going to take BCC Hue, Saturation, and Lightness, drag it onto our lines. We're going to jump saturation up. We're going to go to BCC Chroma Key Studio. Chroma Key Studio combines our award-winning chroma key filters with tools for garbage masks, a screen cleaner, matte choker, foreground color correction, and light wrap. It's kind of your one-stop shop for green screen pulls. Drop this right on top. Under our chroma key, we're going to pull some of this yellow out so that we're left with our blacks. I'm going to hit Duplicate one more time. Pull these greens as well. And those are our blacks left. We're going to go to Layer, New, Solid. I'm going to make a black solid. And we're going to go to BCC Fractal Noise. Fractal noise allows you to generate a random pattern, and in the BCC tools you can scale the X and Y differently, and that's how we're going to create our stripes. We're going to take fractal noise, drag it on top, and we're going to uncouple our scale X and Y. We're going to scale our Y down, scale our X up, and we're going to smooth our knots a little bit. And we're going to bring our knot luminance up. We're going to take our knot luminance down, take our offset down. And once we feel like we have a nice noise, we need to animate it. So we're going to go to mutation, leave that at 1, come to the end, mutation at 4. Now we have our noise animated. We're going to do BCC brightness and contrast. And we're going to adjust our contrast to a solid black and white matte. Now in track matte, we're going to do Illumimatte. We're going to duplicate our lines, leave one in place, and then on our underside lines, we're going to offset this just a little bit. So now our lines are coming off of our blacks. And our blacks are over the top of everything, really punching the values. We're going to take lines too, though, and we're going to knock this down to about 80, because I want to be able to see some of the lines through the top, because we want some value there. Also, I want to make a quick mask right around our characters here. And what that will do is that will maintain our lines. That will maintain our lines just in the area that we want them, as opposed to in the entire image. From here, we can start to composite in some of my paint effects. But what I also want to do is knock down this background area over here, because there's too many people over here on the left, and I find it distracting. I don't want to pay attention to them. So we're going to go to Layer, New, Adjustment Layer. We're going to go to Effect, Generate a Gradient Ramp, Black, White, and we're just going to go ahead and multiply this right over the top. Knock this under everything. And so that takes some of the attention away from this corner over here. Let's go to my project, and let's pull in my paint strokes. Drop them right onto the top. And what you'll see is I have these nice paint strokes that I've made inside of Rebel. What we're going to do is we're going to go to BCC, Chroma Key Studio, drop it right on top. Inside of Chroma Key, we're going to pull our green. We're going to go to Invert Alpha, drop that right on top. And now we've got paint strokes to add on top. So let's go to Multiply, and we can put paint strokes right on top of everything. But what we're going to do is we're going to change the color of this. So we're going to go to Transform. We're going to take our opacity down to about 70. And we're going to go to our BCC Hue and Saturation, and we can change our hue to something more like a purple. You'll notice that I had just painted green onto the canvas. The reason for that was because that actually made it a lot easier to pull keys. And I can layer these up if I like. So I can hit Duplicate, just like that. And I can change the hue. So let's come right in here into our hue, and let's change to like more of a teal color. And what we can do is we can really start to place this in an artful way right inside of our footage, just like this. And if we feel like we want these to be more on screen at the beginning, we can just change that by adjusting the timing. And if we feel like the detail doesn't need to be under everything, we can bring it back over the top, and what that'll do is that'll bring our details right back out. And let's actually change this to overlay. Let's take the original plate, mix it back over the top, just a little bit, and let's make sure we have posterized time on our blended in shot. Alright, from here we can go to Layer, New, Adjustment Layer, and we can put our light rays back over the top of everything. So Puffy, I'm going to move it right up here to the top. I'm going to use black and white. We're going to go to BCC Watercolor, because we're trying to striate this a little bit. So let's go to our effects browser. Let's do soft cartoon, hit apply, take our intensity down a little bit. Soften that just a little bit, and let's just go to our blend, and let's do a screen, and let's take that down to like 20. And the last thing I want to do is I actually want to change some of these colors up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Layer, New, Solid, pick like a green color. I'm going to draw a super quick mask using the After Effects mask tool. And I'm going to subtract, just like this. Find the top of my train, just like this. Make this a soft light. And then we're going to hit Duplicate. We're going to go to Layer, Solid Settings. Make this like a purple. And in our mask, we're going to make it an add. Let's find a more subdued purple. Just like that. Let's take both of these down to like a 40. And now we're just popping the separation between those two layers just a little bit more. We're going to put our adjustment layer back on top with the light rays. And so very quickly, even though it's a lot of steps, we've built a really interesting painterly look that we can continue to add brush strokes to if we wanted to. So what we've done is we've just taken our opening plates here using that same fractal noise mask for the edges. We've hand animated it over the top of two pieces of footage. We've done a quick brushstroke transition between the two that we made using that Rebel program. Composited these shots together and then added our ending hand animation of plates over the top with our Comic Noir text. But let's talk a little bit about the Comic Noir text to wrap this up. The first thing you need to do is you need to find out what font this is. Now, I'm going to show you a trick. Go to www.whatthefont.com. You go to What the Font. Inside of What the Font, you can upload an image file. You can grab like a image of the font you're trying to find, hit Continue, and what you can do is try to find letters that What the Font will recognize. When you hit Continue, it'll try to find it for you, and then you can download the font from there. In this case, it's Gothic 13. That's the font you want for Comic Noir. All we have done is we have simply added a BCC Grunge with the custom texture right on top of our comic, and we have created a really simple, strong alpha to bring the grunge a little bit more under control. To get the paint on effect, I simply add my paint strokes that I've been using right over the top. We're just going to go ahead and let that draw right on by making a negative black. So we simply go to Lumimat, and Comic Noir is now matted properly with its grunge, and we've simply animated the transformation on and off to create our Comic Noir text. So now our final sequence looks just like this. Now, obviously this was just a walkthrough and the actual production of this takes a little longer than 15 minutes, but we wanted to condense this down to something you could just see the potential of the tools in and then make this happen on your own. If you have any questions, I am Mary Poplin for BorisFX.com. Footage courtesy of Artbeats.